All right, what is going on, guys? It is another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast, and today we've got a real special guest for this one. Just got back, still a little bit jet lagged, been traveling since 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, back from Texas, the land of conflict motorsports. Had a chance to hang out with Alex for a couple days and just kind of check out the Austin area, learn a little bit more about suspension, so absolutely stoked. Gonna have some magic for the 790 here in just a few weeks. Maybe less than a week. We'll see. Can't rush perfection, that's what I'd say. So, really cool. Learned a lot about the Kashima coating, especially. Definitely something that you guys want to start maybe looking at on forks. It is absolutely crazy how much friction gets reduced with that. It's like night and day, insane. So, but anyway, had a great time in Austin just hanging out. Then headed over to Houston where my friends Jackie and Steve hooked it up, let me stay the night, and caught up with them. Kind of interesting area. Lots of green. I can only imagine that the riding's got to be pretty cool out there. So absolutely looking forward to it. Getting out there on a big bike. Alex kind of teased on that episode. If you guys haven't heard it yet, that is the episode with Alex Martins from Conflict Motorsports and Rally Pan Am. Talked a little bit about some of the riding that he's done out there. We talked a little bit about it while I was out there, and it's absolutely crazy. So land use and stuff like that is a little bit different in Texas, but sounds like they were able to get about a 250-mile ride in, and some of the green and river crossings and stuff like that. And so absolutely insane. So I am looking forward to hopefully getting a big bike out there. I've been looking up for information as well for the KTM Adventure Rally, but haven't been able to find a whole lot on it as of yet. So hoping we're still having it. Somebody point me in the right direction. I'll post this podcast once it is done and ready to go and aired later tonight. Well, I guess if you're listening to it now, it's been posted now. So, absolutely cool. Looking forward to it. So, lots going on. Shock got torn out of the 790 today. Going to be sending that out as well to Conflict so we can match the front end with the rear end, because of course once you do the front end of the bike, rear end is going to be significantly lacking. So we'll see. Let's kill this music here a little bit. Yeah. All right. So we've been going over a lot of different stuff. If you guys have been following the episodes, we talked about the Vintage 1000, about roadbook navigation and just doing some simple events kind of stuff. So roadbook, nothing fancy, no timing and scoring, but just being able to go out and get lost with them. So I'm thinking that's actually got a pretty cool idea. We're going to be working with those guys. I got to reach back out to Adam, and then had somebody else reach out to me as well. And so there is a lot of vintage bike stuff going on, which is pretty cool. You know, try and get some of these older bikes, and I'm more into the Dakar type motorcycles and the older vintage bikes like that. So you see like the OG Africa Twin and some of the Yamaha, the OG Tenere, things like that. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I almost wonder like if that's something, you know, if you can still build them and find parts and do all that stuff, or maybe, you know, I don't know, find a different bike and kind of make it look that way. So the old Camel Trophy stuff too is also pretty cool. So hopefully we could get something going here. But it is March, and we are finally getting into riding weather and riding season. Fair weather rider here. I mean, that's just, I don't ride in the rain and I don't like freezing. If you ever wanted to kind of find out the argument about wind chill and whatnot, you could definitely figure that one out. If you look up wind chill chart for motorcycle riding. I'll actually post that up on the Facebook so you guys can check that out. But it's pretty cool. Kind of gives you an idea. Man, it's cold. It's like 17 degrees. I think if you're riding in like 38 degree weather or something like that at 70 miles an hour, it's like 17 degrees. Fahrenheit, that is. So, absolutely cold. But other than that, we're doing some work. We've got new bars on the 790. We've got suspension coming. We're going to get that roadbook mounted up top on the tower from Raid Garage. I saw Raid Garage with some sneak peek stuff. It's got a brake pedal coming for the 790. I personally run their pegs on the 790. I like, they are 15 millimeters lower than the stock pegs. So for me, it made me feel like I was basically sitting in the bike a little bit better than before. So I'm like, well, I wasn't really sure about it until I got on it, and then I was like, oh, yeah, this is a lot better. Word of caution, though, if you are running something like that, you do run a lot of rocks, and you do run a lot of that more hard enduro stuff. Yeah, it may not be the best. That peg is going to be a little bit lower. But if you're riding in the sand, if you're riding more of the off-road, longer graded roads, things like that, some of the off-road stuff, just, not gnarly boulders and stuff like that, like Travis over at Every Single Sunday, someone needs to tell him that bike is not a 300. Actually, no, don't tell him. He's got that thing dialed. So, saw he spent a little bit of time on that. I know he's been riding the two-stroke stuff, so it will be very interesting. So anyway, we've long-winded introduction, but to introduce this week's guest for In the Bivouac, I'm going to share a quick story about how I met and my first encounter with this person was. And this was at Baja Rally a few years back on the adventure bike class. He was riding a Honda Africa Twin. And it was on the start of the Sankin Scene stage in the sand dunes. Everybody was struggling to leave the start line, trying to figure it out, find that first waypoint, going through the dunes, all these witch eyes and just drop-offs and really bad. And here's this guy on an Africa Twin. At that time was brand new to the world. And I don't know what exactly the thought process is. Maybe he would share a little bit about that, but he basically hung a right, headed straight for the water, bypassed all of the sand dunes, and just ripped this thing up the beach. I do not think that motor had another 2 RPM to give him, and he was at the top of the beach before we knew it. That bike sounds absolutely amazing. So I was absolutely impressed. I think it was a strategic move rather than struggle through the dunes and struggle on that, because it is a heavy bike. He figured it out right away. And the person that figured that out right away was Mr. Lawrence Hacking. Lawrence, you there?
Yes, I am. Yeah. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Yeah, just I'm here at my house in Georgetown, Ontario. It was a beautiful spring day. We went for a long hike with our dog in the woods, and then I'm actually in shorts and a t-shirt in the sunshine, trying to get some vitamin D.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we're finally getting warm weather here, but it's not like what you guys get over there.
Yeah. Where are you?
San Diego.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, today's an exceptional day. We've had a really good spring so far. I haven't ridden dirt bikes yet this year, except in the snow a couple of times, which was fun. We have studded tires, and otherwise, yeah, I'm looking forward to riding this season.
Nice. What are you going to be riding this season? Do you have a new bike for that, or what's the? Uh-oh. Can you share?
I can't. Well, I can't tell you really what I'm up to quite yet, because I haven't signed a deal yet. But it's going to be cool.
All right.
For the Baja Rally, I'm not sure what I'm going to be riding. Definitely not what I'm talking about here. This is more for work. But I just was working on an old XR400 of all things. 96 XR400, and I have my old trusty Yamaha 250 WR that I just love that bike, and it's spent most of its life riding in Baja, actually, and it's just a fun bike for anywhere. And I'm not too I ride for different reasons. I'm not trying to be competitive by any stretch of the imagination, and trying to compete or anything like that. And it's all about fun for me. So I just if I have fun riding that bike, I don't care what's underneath me, really.
As long as it's fun.
Yeah, like the Africa Twin. Great story. Great introduction. Thank you. That was fun. That was daunting moments on that bike in those conditions, but it was fun. I have to say.
I was impressed. It was like you knew, and when I just saw you beeline for the water, I was like, aha. He's smarter than it, because everybody struggled. We had so many pictures that year of people going over the bars into these drop-offs because of the way the wind sweeps the dunes there.
Yeah.
And they don't look that big, but if you hit a 4-foot drop-off when you're not expecting it, it's a little tricky in the sand.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that I've ridden on that beach before, and I know that it's hard packed near the water, and yeah, you don't that bike. Well, I think later on that day there were probably the most difficult dune sections,
Hmm.
and there were parts where I thought they'll need a helicopter to get this thing out if I get it stuck. Or I don't know how many sweep riders, but man, there was a couple of I remember there was a waypoint up on top of a flat top dune, and to get into it was a really deep, soft. I guess it would be called a witch's eye or something like that.
Hmm.
And there were guys stuck there on normal bikes, and I just waited at the kind of the crest of a little pass to get into it, and then just when it got clear, I just got it into second, and I. That probably I could have been. The rally could have been over in that situation because it would have been so stuck. But
Yeah.
it hauled itself out, and yeah, you have to be so careful on big bikes to ride them. But it's very satisfying, obviously, to get it through.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine because everybody's looking at these, at you and the other guys that were in the adventure class, going, man,
Yeah.
what were they thinking?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote it the year. I think I rode that rally. That was 16, and I think I rode it in 15 as well on a 450 Honda. And riding the first time, I thought, yeah, on an adventure bike, there wasn't too many difficult, situations. An adventure bike will get through, not as fast, obviously, but possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it got a little bit more difficult the second year. So it's kind of funny. But anyways.
Yeah, 500 pounds. So what? Not double the weight, but getting there.
Yeah, it's the bike. I think an Africa Twin full of fuel is 511 pounds, and they work really well in the in off-road conditions. But you just you have to be so respectful and full of humility. You have to be so careful when you're riding big bikes of any type. But it works well. It has really good suspension, and I still own that bike. It's still sitting in my basement.
Very nice.
Probably ride it for sure. Yeah.
So I was, just looking around and poking around, and I saw something, and I actually did not know this, but 2001, that was your first Dakar, but more so than first Dakar, it was your first rally.
Yeah, that's right.
So how did that happen? Because that's the biggest rally out there.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting story. First of all, I've ridden my whole life. This is off-road riding is my entire, this is what I do. And I rode the International 6 days 5 times prior to that. And, so that's a good basis for international events and endurance events, long distance, multi-day events and things. And the Dakar was always on my mind ever since I learned about it way back in 1980. I was racing motocross in France for 2 seasons in 1980 and 81. And we met riders, Dakar riders. And then I worked for Yamaha for many years, and I was, close to the Dakar effort for Yamaha in the heyday. They were really, exciting times of Jean-Claude Olivier and Stefan Peter Hansel and Gilles Picard and all these famous guys. And I got to know all those guys and rode with them. I actually went to Baja the first time on a trip that Yamaha we organized called the Spirit of Adventure Tour, and it was for Super Tenere owners, and they won a contest to win an adventure trip. And this is actually one of the very first kind of manufacturer organized adventure rides. There's other ones, that have gone on since that time, the BMW GS Trophy and things like that. But that's when I got to know a number of, adventure real Dakar riders. And I was just this is the pinnacle. This is climbing Mount Everest for an off-road rider.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you did it when it was the last original Dakar.
That's right. They called it a classic. It went from Paris to Dakar, Senegal, and it was the last one that ever took place. So I followed it very closely. I lived in Europe quite a bit, and for a number of years, and the Dakar mystique, just that to me, that's a real adventure, and I just had to do it, and worked. I just did it. I really wanted to do it that year. Everything else in life kind of fit together as far as stability goes, and business, and and family and things like that. So I figured, I'm getting a little bit older. I was 46 at the time, and it was going to be now or never kind of thing. So I worked hard for a whole year trying to put it all together, and it was a privateer effort, but it worked out well.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's two follow up to that. Is one, what did you do to prepare as far as road book? Like, what was your experience with road books up until then?
Very little, actually. Okay. I just jumped into it. It was a little bit different in those days. It was the true Dakar style too. So there was the road book was kind of handwritten, and you could. I honestly didn't think about it. I figured I'd figure it out on the way, and I have to admit, the first few days in Africa, I didn't even know how to turn the GPS on for the first few days. And then once the GPS, I figured out the codes and all that. I just kind of followed along with the crowd and tried to make sense of the road book and the odometers, and then it's common sense road book reading, and it isn't. The actual reading the road book isn't, to me, the most difficult part. It was having confidence in making the right decisions and following along. I obviously ride watching the terrain, not trying to, fall, and road book navigation comes second. So always, ride the bike first and then navigating. If you're not sure, slow down and then have a look at the road book. But I got onto it pretty well, and it was a different world back then. It was a little bit different. I've ridden rallies since then, and you get a little bit better at it. And road books reading is navigations. Each rally is a different challenge. Someone different wrote the road book, and you have to use all your everything, not your common sense, a little bit of intuition and things like that to do it properly, I think.
Yeah, it engages everything. It's not just the guy that can pin it and ride the fastest.
Exactly. Yeah,
you can quickly get lost that way.
Yeah, and I've done all sorts of funny stories. I've ridden the rally in Mongolia 3 times, and that's a road book challenge because it's written by a Japanese guy for Mongolian conditions. I don't even know what, you go there and what does this mean? A clack. Well, that's a crack, which is a washout. So you see that a couple of times in the road book, and then you see it in real life on the ground. You figure out, oh, that's what that means. So every road book is like that. That was kind of an extreme example of trying to learn to decipher what the author of the road book is trying to convey to you.
Trying to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I figured that, what they deem as important or how they would describe something could vary vastly.
Sure.
And then rider ability as well. If they're a slower or less seasoned rider versus somebody that's quick, we'll recognize dangers that may be more hazardous to people that are faster than people that are slower, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Reading the terrain, and once you've ridden the conditions, anywhere in the world, water runs downhill and creates, washouts. So Baja, Mongolia, Morocco, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So once you have that kind of body of knowledge in the hard drive, I call it, you kind of start recognizing patterns in off-road conditions, and you kind of start recognizing that. So it's a body of work. It helps to have a ton of experience, So that's my forte.
Yeah. And that's more the riding experience versus the actual navigation experience.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It'll take some of the pressure off.
Sure. Yeah, you can recognize danger spots no matter what, kind of thing. You watch the terrain and the conditions. And once you've ridden a little bit in a certain area, I mean, in Baja especially, you kind of, northern Baja is kind of, you can, pretty soon I've done so many kilometers down there that you really kind of know, okay, this is over this rise, things can go wrong. So let's slow down. And so I don't rely too much. I rely a lot on the cautions in road books, but I also rely on what you're actually seeing a lot as well. So
Well, you got to ride what's in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If one note may not be as bad or describe something as bad as you think it would be, but once you actually see it, you go, ooh, this is kind of nasty.
You see lots of examples of that. It's only a double caution. Well, depending, maybe the guy's not going quite as fast as you are, or something, and then all of a sudden it's a huge caution if you're going 20 kilometers an hour faster through a G out or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a much wilder ride.
Yeah, exactly. So you've seen a lot. I've seen lots of that stuff. But anyways, it's a great challenge. It's great fun, and we're obviously looking forward to going to the Baja Rally in September.
Nice. And have you thought? I haven't seen, but have you done the Sonora Rally as well, or just
no? I have not. I know the guys there, Rodolfo and Darren and Scott Whitney, and we were considering going this year. Okay. But we're locked down here in Canada right now, and fingers crossed we're able to travel in September. But right now it's pretty difficult to get across the border for non-essential reasons, which I think Baja Rally may fall into that category.
It might be a bit tough to convince that that's some kind of medical therapy or something that you have to have.
Yeah.
So when you did this, so it's something that was kind of unique to me, and I may not know a lot on that. The XR650 for your first Dakar was your bike of choice.
Yeah. I'd been looking at. I'd kind of done everything that I kind of wanted to do in off-road up until that point, except the Dakar. And I was watching. I watch it every year, and I was watching the previous year, and that's the year that they flew everybody over the country of Niger because of terrorism threats. And, I thought, wow, these organizers they'll take really good care of me. And, whatever they can do anything. That was a huge 5-day or something stoppage of the rally where they flew every single vehicle over the danger area or the, threat and started up the rally again. And that was when it went to Sharm el Sheikh or somewhere in Egypt at the end. So they were going west to east, something like that anyways. And then also the guy winning the rally on TV, I was watching them, and it was a KTM. And the guy winning the rally, they had to push start the bike. It didn't have a Kickstarter, and something was wrong with the electric starter. And I thought, this is the guy winning the rally, and his mechanics were push starting the thing. And I thought, boy, who's going to push start my bike if it won't start? So I went with the Honda because they showed it winning the Baja 1000 and kick starting, one kick. And I obviously have a lot of confidence in Honda products, and they supported me. And I thought that was also a good thing to do. Is I knew the people at Honda, they helped out quite a huge amount. And for a privateer guy to want to go and ride the Dakar. And I knew they would leverage the finish. If I did get to finish, and to me, that's equity. I got to do a whole bunch of other things because they celebrated that finish, and that was very beneficial to me. So that's all my thinking is, first of all, reliability. I thought the bike was going to be the best one to get me to the finish line with the minimum amount of problems, and it was quite a capable bike, actually. I changed it a lot. It had a lot of work done to it, but it worked out quite well, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, you can't miss it. I mean, the gas tank right off the bat, all aluminum. Yeah. I mean, I don't even, how many liters was that?
It carried almost 54 liters of fuel. So, well more than way more than 100 pounds of fuel. But in those days, you had to go 385 kilometers plus 10% on one full tank.
Unassisted, yeah. Okay. Unassisted,
yeah. It was big, long distances. They were still riding big, 1,000cc BMWs and big motorcycles there because the challenge was different than nowadays, where it's all 450s and it's quite, twisty and lots of twists and turns, and terrain is more enduro-like. Now, in those days, it was big, long days, and comfort was important. It carried a lot of fuel. So
I'm sure the weight was all up, all in, probably pretty close to the Africa Twin.
Probably, yeah, I think so. I never weighed it.
Yeah.
You know, we added a lot of weight to it, and you'd ended up carrying a lot of stuff. And of course, I had lots of spare parts, tools. You know, tool bag was really heavy, and lots of water. So, you have to carry 3 liters of extra emergency water. It had a little tank on it. So yeah, it was. But that was the type of event it was in those days.
Yeah, very definitely not as groomed, I think, as the event that it is nowadays.
Very different, yeah. You know, you slept sometimes with no tent, just in your riding gear on a dusty old carpet in a, you know, canvas tent, and no washrooms, no showers. You know, minimum, some bivouacs, just a little bit of food. And it was really, but, you know, that's what I thought that was great. You know, now, you know, people are all in motorhomes with, you know, snacks and, you know, changes of clothes and washrooms and showers and stuff. Pretty different.
A very different experience.
Yeah. And still very, very difficult, but very different.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a different type of difficult than it was compared to then. And so they've been working on this. So you know, 450s now, they've been working on it. You know, they had the tire rule this year. You know, airbags, they're introducing all that stuff and all that. So with the Dakar evolving the way that it has, will we see the big bikes back? You know, what are your thoughts on what they're doing?
I think it's very good. You know, I know the event director, David Castera, and when they made him event director, I thought, okay, this is the right direction, because David's life is rally, and his father was involved, and he's very, very good at knowing how to lay out a very good event, and very good at knowing how the challenge, to make the challenge just the right amount of difficulty. And write a road book that rewards good navigators. And, you know, you have to be a good navigator. And that's the challenge of rallying. That's the art of rallying, is to be a good navigator. You know, when GPS first arrived in the Dakar, what people were doing was just following the arrow. And they were actually getting hurt because they weren't looking for the cautions. You just, okay, this is the arrow, let's floor it. And there's guys that were doing very well that couldn't navigate. And so it's always been the crafty navigator kind of guy that didn't go all out, saved the machinery that did pretty well. And I think that's good. So the challenge in Saudi Arabia, I think, it's evolved into a really nice event. I really like it again. You know, in South America, it was a little bit different. It evolved, and it's always, every year has been different, different challenge, different organizer, different persons laid it out. But nowadays, I think it's back to a little bit of the same conditions and feel, because Saudi Arabia is straight across, you know, the Gulf of Arabian Sea or whatever it is down there. So the actual conditions are very similar to North Africa, and the distances are quite similar, and the good thing is it's up to modern conditions. You know, security is very, very good in Saudi Arabia, and you know, food has obviously evolved into really good food, and you know, it's a civilized rally now. In South America, it was a bit of a circus. You know, the top drivers were staying in all the luxury hotels. Someone would have a little knock on their door and hand them a little cup of coffee, and then drive them to the start line, and they'd get in the car and then go back to the luxury hotel. So the feeling in the bivouac is very different. When I did it, the camaraderie in the bivouac was really special. You know, I'd sit down and talk to, you know, the guy who's winning the rally, you know, kind of thing, and sit there and eat, you know, lunch with or dinner with the top guys, and they'd all be friendly, and everybody was, you know, it was a real nice group of people. They all kind of respected each other and knew that you were, you know, a privateer doing it, you know, the old style way with no support and all that. And it was a really good feeling. And that the overall experience was really good. And I think that's a nice part of it. When you didn't come in contact with everybody, and most of the people in South America were VIP people with badges and lots of umbrella girls and all that kind of stuff, and VIP parties all over that, some people were excluded from, like riders, or you couldn't, some events you couldn't go to. You had the rider pass, but you couldn't get into it. So it's kind of a special difference. So I think it's going to go back to the original feel again.
A little more of the original feel, yeah. And they're forcing it. I mean, with the way that they're changing, like how they're, to help mitigate mapmen and getting rid of that advantage that some of the teams had by doing that. I remember it was a couple of years back when they were talking about GPS inside the vehicles. Yeah. Peugeot, I think it was. Yeah. Or Mini, one of the two. I mean, they got pretty bunched up about that. So, it's like when outside looking in, you don't realize how some of these people will use it to their advantage. But sure, now it's like, here's the road book 10 minutes before. And then I think digital next year, right? Have you heard that? Yeah,
digital. Yeah. So, the mapmen and, the riders would spend hours, and the teams would spend hours trying to figure out where the waypoints were, and then make also these shortcuts. Mm-hmm. And, it's better if it's a level playing field and everybody has to do the navigating. And it isn't easy. Like, the challenge of the organizers is unbelievable because everything's so far advanced, and everybody's on Google Earth figuring out, where it is, where the track can only go, and that kind of stuff. So, I think it's going to be better. I think they know that to keep the challenge of it equal and fair and reward the best rally rider, the win. I think that's what's important because, you want the fans to follow it and know that there's the best rider won. I think that's essential for the competition side of the rally. So I think it's going to go the right way now.
Yeah, I agree with that. The strategy of it, and I think that this year it played a bigger part. You saw the swing in the leaderboard in the top 10, how they kept moving from day to day. Yeah. You could tell, okay, this isn't as easy as it was last year. You're seeing this because the rules are changing. Yeah. I know that there was a lot of friction over the tire concern, and it really, or the tire limitations. Yeah. It wasn't, I didn't think it was that big a deal until I spoke with Skylar about it. And Skylar was like, no, it's actually dangerous because you have no traction under braking.
Yeah, sure.
So are there any ideas? Like, I'm kind of curious to hear, like, are there other ideas of things to slow these bikes down? I mean, anything you could think of that would?
Yeah, it's a good question. Make them ride 125s.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're on 250s this year.
Marketing motorcycles is why the teams invest, right? So the number of limiting the tires, I agree, it's going to be dangerous. Just for the elite riders, especially the guys up front that are trying to go fastest. And the idea obviously was to try and make them spare the tires so they'd last longer and slow and be on the gas less and that kind of thing. Obviously, knowing the racer mentality and human behavior, they're just going to go as fast as they can and make the best with what they've got. Mm-hmm. That's racer mentality. So limiting the tires, if it's dangerous, if it's puts everybody those guys in a compromising situation, I guess the best idea is to ask the top riders, and they're going to say no. Give us as many tires as you want because that's what they want to do. They want to go as fast as they can, and I don't know what they could do. I thought of that a little bit. There's probably a better person to ask about that. I think they're going in the right direction though. Maybe there's limit on power. Maybe there's like in the cars they have an intake restrictor plate kind of thing that limits that. I don't know how successful they are. I mean, it's so there's all different sizes for different types of engines and cars and things like that. It's so complicated. I don't know how they how they do that to manage it. But there could be something like that where there's maybe in road racing, for example, there's they put the bikes on dynos here in Canada, and there's a horsepower limit. So the tuners have now the greatest challenge is to give them as much horsepower for as broad a range, RPM range in the engine as possible.
Okay.
And so it really doesn't slow anybody down. Maybe there might be something like that. It is kind of not in the spirit of competition, and there's the reliability factor as well. I mean, the Hondas and KTM's and obviously Huskies are very reliable, and the Yamaha's had a few problems. But they'll get there, So yeah, they thought, okay, we're going to limit the number of engines first, and then they're going to time penalize if you change engines. And now then they seal the engines, so you can't change a piston, on the rest day and things like that. Is that going to slow guys down? Probably not either.
They'll just build a stronger part.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Or
so, yeah, but the safety record is fairly good, and then it's really a dangerous thing to get into, especially at those guys who go fast. This is a risky sport, so things are going to happen, and that's opening another big can of worms as far as discussion goes. So I don't know. Yeah, you could change the routes to be way more tighter, not big long straightaways, those kinds of things, make it more enduro like, try and keep the speeds down that way. Obviously if you're going to fall off, I think you want to fall off at a slower speed rather than a higher speed. So whatever you can do to manage that, I guess, is one of the best ways of thinking. But how to accomplish it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that'll be. Then you think, you just tell them, okay, well, you can only run a 13-tooth front and a 50-tooth rear sprocket.
Yeah, maybe that.
140 tire, that's all you get, Yeah. But then, they'll go back and they'll go, well, how our Redline used to be 10,000? Well, now this engine actually does 12,000.
For sure. So, yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah, which they'll find a way around.
Why racing is so much fun to watch, because, it is, guys... it's a competitive sport, so people are trying the best to do to get an advantage on the competitors, and that's what's fun to watch. There's a lot of discussion to be had. At one point they were thinking, okay, maybe we won't let them use Moose tires. And, back in the day, before Moose was invented, I think Michelin invented Moose because of the Dakar Rally. And those guys were getting flats and having to fix them on the middle of nowhere, and, all sorts of things were going wrong. And they were thinking, I heard a rumor years ago, well, let's eliminate the use of Moose. Well, that's really going to have some problems there too, So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, high speed failure of a tube. Might be an interesting.
Yeah, and Moose aren't perfect. They can melt down at high speeds too. And I guess this year they didn't have separate courses from bikes to cars and trucks. I think everybody used the same route. I'm not sure on that, but I believe so. And then they were trying to, they were having two courses. One for bikes and one for cars and trucks to eliminate that kind of dangerous aspect, safety kind of concerns as well, because I've ridden rallies where the fast cars and trucks are coming up behind you, and it's scary. It's like the Baja 1000 scary kind of thing. So I don't know. Yeah, you could do it. Then it isn't the Dakar anymore. It's something else. So. Yeah,
I mean, and I've heard a couple of the interviews, and it's like, just let us race. Just, let us do what we do. We'll figure it out. I think the airbag is a step in the right direction. The navigation, limiting the navigation, how much time they have with the road book in their hand, which with the electronic is basically going to go to zero. You're just going to have to go ride it.
Yeah.
I could see where they argue, well, it's dangerous because we don't know, we haven't had a chance to look or mark it our own way. But but everybody else is on that. So just slow down,
Yeah. Yeah, and we spoke with Andrew Short the other day, and he's a really, really thoughtful guy. He's put a lot of thought into rallying, and obviously he's a very he admits he's not the fastest desert racer, but those kind of guys were, I believe, the smarter guys were were the more successful Dakar riders, rally riders, were the guys who had a lot of common sense and intelligence and figured things out. And the road books were, back in the early days, were just handwritten kind of vague ideas of where you might want to go, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I heard I talked to guys who rode the first Dakars, and a friend of mine, a Japanese friend of mine, Yoshimasa Sugawara, was well known for being the Hino factory truck drivers. Mm-hmm. He said when he started on a Honda, the road book was a pad of paper taped to the gas tank, and he learned to navigate because the guys ahead of him would just rip off the page and throw it in the air, and he just followed the paper trail across the desert.
All right, there we go.
So, that's what I love about the Dakar is, like, man, it is whatever it takes to figure this out and use everything to your advantage. The first one, they didn't have catering. There was no food. I spoke to one of the French riders who was leading the rally up until the second to last day, and his BMW broke. There was no catering. There was no food. So you had to fend for yourself for food. And he said, at one point during the rally, they hadn't eaten in a few days, and they found a bushman that had killed a deer, and they roasted it over a fire and then stuffed their stomachs full of roasted deer and then went on in the rally. So that's what built the dreams for guys like me.
Yeah.
And now, of course, they're in motorhomes cooking up pasta.
Yeah, exactly. They've got full catering, but that wasn't enough food. So we're going to go back to the motorhome and we're going to make a little more, Yeah.
There's all sorts of stories. And the stories are never ending, of the early years. Mm-hmm. There's some great Facebook pages that the original Dakar people contribute to with old pictures and stuff, and I follow that, and that's what created this desire for me to, and many other to dream about going and doing this adventure. And it's an incredible event. There's nothing else like it in the world, and
it's become it's the household name, and a lot of them are like, oh, they raced a car, but they don't understand like the full, the road books, the preparation, everything that goes into it. Yeah. But people know it. They know it's the Dakar Rally. Yeah. So that's,
worldwide.
Yeah. It's absolutely good. So for you, with all the rallies and all this stuff to you, what's the most memorable, I'm never going to forget this one?
Oh, well, there's been a lot. I'm getting a bit older, so, I'm very grateful to be able to have all these great memories of so many different events. But, crossing the Dakar finish line is just a huge emotional high. So for me, that's when, feeling I'd love to be able to relive that feeling, but it is so, there's a reason why it's so revered to finish the Dakar, is because of that feeling of getting across the finish line is just really unbelievable. But we've had a lot of great memories, riding the Baja Rally a couple of times, and I will always remember winning that adventure bike class. I thought that was a really, really nice accomplishment. I had pretty good success in various different events, different Targa Newfoundland car rally, and we did in Pro Truck, we did some desert races and got some nice finishes there, and the Rally Mongolia, I won the 250 class in 2005. So those kind of little things are just nice little. I don't dwell on that, but it's really nice to know that. Those kind of things, finishing the 6 days, international 6 days, 6 times. So every one I entered, I finished, and they were in 3 different decades. So I, had a really nice, nice memories. To now I enjoy thinking about them and telling stories about them. I have a lot of friends that like to hear all that stuff. So it's kind of good to get to relive it a bit.
Get around the campfire or adult beverages, a beer, or some water, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's to me, rallying or events in general, even just going riding with your friends, it's 90% social. Let's go hang out with your friends. Mm-hmm. It's great to have fun. I still love riding bikes and ripping it up and thrill, having that sensation of actually, riding the bike, being a little bit in control and having fun and battling a little bit with your buddies, and then having a beer later and telling all the stories and making fun of each other and all that kind of stuff. That's it's just a great sport to be involved in.
Yeah. And what's the rally scene like in Canada? I mean, is there a lot of people doing road book stuff up there? I mean, I've talked a little bit with Corey from Camel ADB, Mike Aberoth and those guys. Yeah. But what's it like?
Well, there's actually nothing going on really.
Well, right now.
Yeah. Well, there really has, I did a rally called the Overland Adventure Rally for, I think it was 7 years. Mm-hmm. And one of the original ideas of that was to introduce people into reading road books. And we wrote a road book for those rallies, the early ones. Mm-hmm. And then there were so few people that actually got into trying to read it. We actually had GPS to follow as well. So humans take the path of least resistance, and they just, it's easier to follow GPS or ride with someone. But there were a few people that, tried to use the road book, and it was very simple because it's in a populated area. So, you watch your odometer, you turn right at this signpost, which is very different than riding a rally. Mm-hmm. But ultimately now, the Baja Rally, I think there's 26, 27 people on the mailing list of emails, and there's, I think, 15 or 16 that have actually entered for next year, for this year.
Next edition, yeah.
Yeah, so great response all of a sudden, and it took a few years, but, there are a lot of people that are into it now. There's a lot, I call them active rally riders. There's 25, 26 people, and I guess I know most of them. So I've done my part to try and build or make rally riders here in Canada. It's an expensive undertaking. So generally you have guys who are, a little bit older that have some money to spend and are looking for a good adventure. Mm-hmm. But in 2018, 8 of us went to ride the rally in Morocco, Rally du Maroc, and we all had a great time. Not everybody finished, but there were let me see, 6 of the 8 guys were first timers, I believe. Nice. And they didn't have any experience reading a road book, but we took a run at it. I ended up riding with 4 of us rode together most of the rally. Mm-hmm. And we just, I tried to bring them up to speed a little bit, and then ultimately I was following them. But we had a great time, and once I was saying this to Andrew the other day, is if you go on one of those things, we're not trying to compete, right? We're just having fun. And in that respect, you can't go wrong. You are going to have a great experience because you have realistic expectations of what you're getting into, what it's going to be like, and what you're trying to get out of it. And if you're just we just rode along and had fun and stopped and took pictures with local people during the stages and stuff like that. Because we had a really good handle on what we're trying to do. Yeah. And that's the way I look at it. And ultimately, first of all, you have to build rally riders, and then you have to ideally build guys who are young, like Skylar and people like that, who are then have the potential to gain enough experience to actually try and go fast and get better at it and try and turn it into something really good. So, but you have to start somewhere, and 20. Hopefully, we have 20 people go down there, Canadians. And, that's a pretty good percentage of the entry right now. I think it's probably more than any other country, right? I haven't looked in a month Canada, or two, but yeah. So anyways, it's going to be fun. They're all people I know, and we'll watch out for each other and help each other. And there's lots of first timers, obviously. And it's great for business because they're all guys buying new nav towers and road book holders and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be good, Not for me, but for the rally
for everybody else.
Rally Moto Shop's business. Matthew Glade
is doing.
What I hear, he's doing pretty well because all these guys, I sent them all to him, and it's good for them.
And it's like in thinking. So you touched on something, and it's been the underlying theme because talking to Skylar, talking to him and all this stuff. It's like at the end of the day, if you go and start a rally and you go, I'm going to win this thing.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you're going to do, because mistakes and pushing and all that stuff. And Skyler's record, you know, it was when he kind of let go and just said, I'm just going to go do the best I can. I'm just going to go ride this thing. Then it was, you can see the increment in growth.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is like what you're describing is the ultimate adventure. Yeah. The group of guys you guys went with to Morocco. Yeah. A few of them DNF'd, but guys, we're standing in Morocco, you know?
Oh yeah. You can't go wrong.
No, it's like we're in Morocco riding bikes, you know, who cares? You know? That's
the way I look at, you know, things, you know, well, yeah, the Dakar as well. I really wanted to finish. I mean, that was my goal. And there was a bit of pressure there because, you know, I knew the world is watching, and, you know, I had a lot of a burden on my shoulders because if people were sponsors invested and people were counting on, you know, it would have been hard to come back home and not have finished. And it was touch and go there for quite a few, 3 or 4 times there. But, you know, it was, if you go, like, even the guys who didn't finish, we got them, you know, we got permission for them to come to the bivouac nights out in the desert, and they had a great time, and they rode their own bikes just down the roads to get there and had that experience. And I spoke with David Castera a few times prior to, and he says, don't worry, you guys are going to have, I will make sure you guys have a great time. And the riding was unbelievable. Like, Morocco is just, I still have, you know, I can still remember beautiful scenes, and we're just unbelievably good adventure riding, and great rally. And we were so well received there. We just had a great time, all really good guys. Everybody pitched in, no complaining, you know, hey, you didn't tell me this was going to happen. You know, you have to ultimately, when you get into these you go to a rally, the buck stops with the person, right? Everything's, you've got to, that's what's fun about it, is it's, you know, you got to you're at your own devices to make this happen, to keep safe, to ride, to fix things, to navigate, to adjust to a country like Morocco, or, you know, Saudi Arabia, or even Mexico, or, you know, it's not home. So that's what you pay for. That's what you want to do. Mongolia is unbelievable. You go there, it's like, wow, I've been riding in Mongolia. It was just unbelievable. You know, you're out in the middle of nowhere. In those rallies, they take you to places you can't get to. You can't support yourself any other way than going in a rally for fuel and food and stuff. So it's just, it's expensive, but what you get out of it is in this modern day age, it's one of those really, the true adventures you can take part in. And it's actually, there's a competition involved too. So if you're competitive, you're trying to do something. Sometimes, you know, I try and, try and compete. And ultimately it's very satisfying to do all that, get all that adventure. Plus, you know, you get to race and try and do something in your class or something.
Yeah. And actually do well and on it. I mean, same. I mean, it's something that you hear it over and over again. It's the adventure. So I hear what you said earlier about how, you know, it seems like when you put a road book in front of somebody, it's very daunting. Yeah. And it, you know, it's kind of like, you said it perfectly, the path of least resistance, GPS or road book.
Yeah.
For people getting into it, like what, you know, with the group that you're working with from Canada, right, that are coming down to Baja Rally, what are the tips? What are some of the stuff that you've told them, like, or maybe coached them with on road books and reading road books? Or
well, I you know, people ask me all the time, and, you know, we were asking Andrew, you know, how he views it. I've asked, you know, the best riders in the world what they do. How do you ride so fast and still read the road book? And he said, Takari Tina just won a stage in Dakar, and he said, just do what the road book says. You know, in typical Finnish fashion, they don't, you know, control your emotions, make a good decision. What does the road book do? Are you sure you're here at this distance? And then take your time to look at what the tulip says, what every other little, you know, clue that they give you in the road book. You know, there's always a little clue there somehow, and try and get in the head of the author, and you'll see a pattern of how the author is trying to give you enough information to navigate properly. And a really good road book author that's a difficult job. Like we've been in Mongolia, we're lost. We had no idea, and then we'll flag someone down, like from the organizer, and say, "Hey, we can't figure out where you are." And then he'll point to a little drawing in the tulip and say, "Look here," and then look outside, and you'll see something that looks similar. And oh yeah, okay, now I get it. No, we go left here or something like that. So there's always a clue. And even in the Baja Rally, it's very, very satisfying. You come to there's all sorts of places where there's 4 or 5 different tracks in front of you, and there'll be a little thing there, and there'll be 4 or 5 guys looking around, trying to figure out where they are and which one to go to. But if you stop and have a look, maybe take a deep breath, to have a drink of water, and then clear your mind and then look at it and say, okay. And then maybe I always look at the ground because, I'm in mid-pack or something. Well, the general consensus is a lot of tracks went this way, which normally you shouldn't follow tracks because a lot of people will go up that trail the wrong way, turn around and come back. But, you use your common sense. Yeah. And then it's also, especially in Baja, like Baja is, 100 kilometers wide and with a highway up the middle of it. So, as long as you know which way is east or west, you really can't get lost. You're going to hit either the ocean, the Sea of Cortez, or a highway. You can't really get lost. Yeah, you really can't get lost.
Yeah.
Forever. Like in the Dakar, it was pretty crazy because you could, be lost. I've talked to guys who way back in the early days were in a Sonoda Yamaha Mitsubishi support truck, but they're in the rally. They're a fast support, so they're driving along with spare parts for their team, and they got lost. They got out of water, and they for some reason they got lost. They ran out of water, ran out of fuel, or something like that, and then they ultimately got saved, got into the next bivouac, and went up to the organizers and said, it's okay. You can stop looking for us now. And the organizer goes, "What? You were lost?" I mean, in those days, it was scary, before there were emergency locator transmitters and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But in the Baja Rally, just ride along with the group and really try and use your common sense and do exactly what the road book says, and don't second guess, don't follow other people. If someone comes back I've had this happen all the time. Someone's driving or driving backwards on the course towards you. All right. Even if they have a full-time navigator in there, the only job is to navigate. I don't trust him. I don't turn around automatically and think, okay, this guy knows where he's going, because they're no better than you, right? They're turned around, they're lost, they haven't been watching the odometer, it's off or something like that. So yeah, I trust your own instincts and your own judgment, and try and build some confidence in it. And I think that's the best way to look at it. So
coming up, basically, is come up with your system and then just have faith in that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I've been lost and. All the time. It's because my mind wanders. What happens? I'm not really too worried about it either. I'm just having fun riding sometimes, and sometimes there's I just lazy. I'm not the best navigator in the world by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just an average guy, but. I have a different outlook on going into these rallies, because once you've gone there and had fun and riding, it's all good. It's all good, whatever happens, Yeah. Especially this one coming up, I'm older. So, the good thing is that it's going to beautiful locations in Baja. And, if it's getting late and, there's a big loop out in the wilderness that, is going to be 2 or 3 hours and we're going to get home in the dark, I'm going to come to the highway and just drive down the highway and call it a day. Yeah. But again, I'm just there to have fun and socialize and take people down there and have a good time. And, I've punished myself enough over the 54 years of riding, the cold, wet, mud, crap, beat myself up in, so many. I've lost track of the number of days on a motorcycle I've spent. So, I've done my part. I don't have to beat myself up anymore to prove anything or anything like that.
Yeah. Just go out and enjoy the adventure.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and then and also, I mean, just like with Dakar, luckily with Mike Johnson and the rally comp and having tracking, you know, I've been doing timing and scoring with them, and it's awesome to just be able to send a message. Hey, you know, go to the highway. You know, that's it. You know, we're done. You know, or take this, you know, cut here. You know, when you can see it, you know, from bird's eye view, and you can just tell people, you know, which way to go to keep them safe, or at least you know where they're at.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, exactly. That's another reason why going in rally is you know, they're expensive, but when you need medical support, it's there, and that's what you pay for. It's like paying for an insurance policy. And the good thing about it is, if you go on a rally, you can actually have fun riding and turn it up a bit and slide around and have some fun. And if things go wrong, knock on wood, it doesn't, but you know, hopefully it doesn't. But if you do, you know, you've got someone who's going to pick you up and take you to a really good hospital and save your life. And that service is very, very expensive. And that's where the cost of rallying comes in. And it's as simple as that. You can go out and ride the same routes and stuff by yourself or with your buddies, but if things go wrong, you better have all your ducks in a row.
Yeah, you gotta have a really good game plan, and I mean really
That's
good.
Right. Yeah. So guys like, you know, the Moto Medic guys that support the rally in Baja, well, anywhere, but you know, those, I always made it a point to go and say hi to them and say thanks and talk to them and you know, appreciate them, because they're volunteers, they're out there, but that's the backup plan. That's your first line of defense when you fall down, and people fall down, unfortunately, and they need those guys. And that's so comforting to know that you can have fun riding a bike at a good clip, you know, exciting pace, and they're there. So all those guys like Mike and you know, there's just any number of sweep riders. Most of them are friends of mine on social media, and you know, they know me, and I go there and say thanks guys. Because, you know, I know I've seen lots of things go wrong for a lot of riders too, and it's not much fun. And, you know, I've waited with a guy in the I think it was 2015 rally in Baja, and he fell and hurt himself. It's a great story. I waited there for the helicopter to arrive, and you know, that was good fun. It wasn't good fun for him, but it was good for me, because I wasn't trying to compete. I was just there as a journalist writing a story and enjoying the day. And, you know, if someone's going to stay there and wait, it might as well be me, because there's other guys who have flown in from England and they want to ride and stuff. So, you know, that's, you know, you guys go ahead. I'll wait here. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, I look at as a good story to tell, and it reflects good. You know, you have to do it anyways if you've come across an injured rider, but it reflects well on me, you know, caring about things, and hopefully someone would do that for me if I fell down.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like, I mean, I don't know, you know, with the listeners, but knowing that, but yeah, it is one of the rules of rally. You know, if the rider in front of you is down, you're required to stop. Yeah, and you're the first line of defense, unless the next guy has either medical experience or you need their help to move them to a safer place or whatever. But then you get your time back. So it's like it's accounted for. Where when you're out doing a Baja sprint race, it's like, you know, you just hope for the thumbs up, and then, you know, you just keep going because you're on the clock and you don't get time back. Yeah, so it's kind of it's a different thing, and then especially the remote areas. That you get into. I mean, at least I know, because my experience is through Baja Rally. It's like with Scotty and Mauricio working with the landowners to get permission to go ride into these places that, you know, I'll never forget when Steve Hengeveld, you know, Honda A team, you know, knows every inch. He's got names for every other rock, you know, or the cattle guards have names. He knows this place so well. He's got, I've never been down these roads. You know, I've never been in this area. And so, having a team behind you, and then having your fellow competitors and rally raiders, you know, with you to help in that case is huge. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the guys up front are going fast, right? They're taking risks. And well, everybody is. But, you know, the potential for things to go wrong and that's why being a good navigator is essential, because, you know, you got to stay on the course, because if you're, you know, off the course and you've gone down around and fall, then people aren't going to find you. So it's a safety thing as well to be stay on the course and make sure everything. That's why all the safety measures are very different than in the old Dakar times where there was there was virtually nothing. There was no tracking device. There was no one. It was all done by hand. There was, if you got lost, like those guys I know in that Mitsubishi, I mean that could be fatal, right? And I think that's on that the Dakar's reputation was based on that era where it was the Wild West as far as safety goes and things like that. Yeah. When I did the Dakar in 2001, there was an emergency locator beacon that was on your bike that if you were on the course and someone found you down, you could press that button and then the helicopter would come within a short period of time. They said that the response time was quicker in the Dakar than it was in the middle of Paris. So, anyways, that's interesting. And now, of course, they've got it refined down to they know where everybody is at all times. Like the rally comp thing is a great addition to the rally world.
Well, and now I think even with the devices that they're running now for Dakar, it's actually a line of communication, so you can actually talk to them. So it's like a sat phone integrated.
Yeah.
And I know the Baja Rally, that's sat phones required.
Yeah.
But it's for good reason, obviously.
Yeah, even the Rally du Maroc, they had a device that would talk to you if you fell down. If it's tipped over, it knows, and then someone will say, "Are you okay?" So I fell down, obviously a few times in the dunes, and you get someone to say, pick up my bike right away before they know that I'm down. It's just, it can kind of. They probably are busy with, maybe busy with other more serious situations, and they don't need a guy who's just tipped over in the sand dune to distract them or anything like that. But that's a good thing. It's the safety side of it is good, much more involved. So I think that's it's an important part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you were going to go out in the middle of nowhere and adventure, like you said, I mean, there's no better than having at least people that know where you're supposed to be at and then how to come and find you.
For sure. Yeah.
And like you said, Baja's not a bad place to get lost in. Worst case scenario, you end up at one of the beaches and find a fishing village and you're good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, people will come out and help you. It's a great place.
Yeah.
I was thinking this year, I haven't gone anywhere since. We did a little ride in Canada last September, but the last time I left Canada was March of last year, and I've gone down to Baja to ride or do something, but we did an annual trail ride every year since 2008, except this year.
Wow!
And on average, we've gone down there twice a year, on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. But we've done this beautiful Baja ride through all the single track trails with Pancho from DS Pro Adventure and Juan Carlos from Baja Voyager and all those kind of guys. We've done so many beautiful rides down there and always been so well received. Such great food, beer's cold, trails are great, beautiful scenery, and it's quite easy for us to go and have such a great adventure. Baja's the closest kind of place you can go to. You can go to the southwestern part of the States, which a lot of people do to go and ride, but when you go to Baja, it's a special experience, as everybody knows.
It's a whole, it's absolutely different. And then Pancho, I mean, he's, I got stories with him. He is quite the navigator, And I mean, it's, between him and then, I'm sure you've met Dave Peckham.
Oh yeah.
Between them, watching them duel it out in the UTVs.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really, really cool. And I mean, obviously Pancho is the same. He really knows every trail down there.
Yeah. I mean, we've ridden with him a lot over the years, and it's his backyard. So, and that's, no matter where you are, like riding in Mongolia, is a massive, wide open country with no fences and very few paved roads. It's like, the whole, say, Midwestern part of the States, or, in Canada, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, the prairies, it's like grasslands, there's signs in the middle of a massive, you can see the horizon in all directions. There'd be a sign with the next town being 650 kilometers down this dirt track in that general direction. And if you go 650 kilometers, you will get to where you want to go. But the Mongolian people, it's their backyard. It's like, me driving around my neighborhood, going to the gas station or something. They know exactly where they are. They know where the bivouac is the next night. And they were actually, in those days, some of them were Google Earthing once they got the road book, where the waypoints were going to be, and then they knew the shortcuts.
Great.
How I know that is because, again, I was just riding to have fun, and one morning I followed a little buggy, and I knew it was going off the course. And I followed it, and I thought, oh crap, I hope these guys are in the race. I was starting to doubt, and then drove 40 kilometers off the course, made a hard left off the road through a tiny little 2-track way off in the grassland. I rode up beside them and I pointed at my number and says, please, now we're off course. Please make sure that if I'm lost, I've followed you guys. And it was a little bit of an experiment for me. So we went for a long, long way. And ultimately we got up we rode past people's front doors and farms and little yurts and huts and stuff like that, right past their front door, dogs chasing us and stuff. And finally we get way up in the top of a hill in grassland, and kilometers off in the distance, I see a tiny dust cloud, a bike coming up a valley. I thought, oh, this is what these guys, they're intersecting the course. So I rode down this really rocky hill, left those guys behind, and intersected the course, made a hard right, and followed a guy to the checkpoint. And of course, I only lost about an hour doing that because it was so slow going. It was way quicker to follow the course and to actually go. Yeah. It was no advantage, zero advantage. I lost an hour, but
it looked great,
it was
on
fun.
paper.
It was a fun story to tell, and it was fun to see what they were doing, because I was really wondering, in Mongolia, the bivouacs were generally just outside a little town, and they had Wi-Fi or some sort of way of connecting to Google Earth, and they were actually, okay, let's have a look, and they knew where they were, and it was like their backyard. So it was interesting, but for me, the whole countryside was featureless. It was basically tracks off in all directions, and there was almost nothing to read in the road book other than an exact distance. And some of the distances in the tulips were 100 meters apart. I mean, you had to have a really accurate kind of odometer reading to make a good decision. Otherwise, you'd go down the wrong track, and it'd take you on the wrong side of the hill rather than the right. Yeah. So I made a lot of U-turns in that rally, but it was good fun, and it was a good adventure.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because you have to have faith in what you got to reconcile often, or as often as you can.
Sure.
Okay, I know for sure I'm here. I'm going to make sure my odometer's on point. Everything's on point. Yeah. And then, and then continue to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
And hopefully you end up at the bivouac.
Yeah. And, it's scary because you could go many, many, many kilometers in the wrong direction. You could ride. I've, ridden a couple 100 kilometers by myself, riding along, see nothing. Occasionally you see a little white yurt off in the distance or something. And if you stop, wait 10 minutes, someone on a horse will come up and say, hey, what's going on? Just have a look at what this, odd looking alien that's in their countryside. Or a kid would ride by on a horse. He hadn't seen anything for 30, 40 kilometers, and a kid would ride up to you, ride beside you, and then off into the distance again. So it's really a special experience. Those kind of countries, it's fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, nice. Well, I mean, hopefully one of these days we'll get out that far.
Yeah, you never know.
For now, it's Baja, but you never know.
They've had to cancel that or postpone that rally this year. Yeah. It's I guess the COVID situation isn't. It's a very sparsely populated country, not a lot of visitors, so I guess they're trying to protect their the situation and stuff. But I stay in touch with Mongolian people, frequently, and they're very nice people.
Nice. Just kind of see what they're up to. Well, it'd be cool. I mean, if they get their event, back once everything is kind of normalized a little bit, and get back to work, and the borders are opened up, and hopefully for September, I know
Yeah.
Sonora Rally's coming up in May, so that's starting to get close. So yeah, we'll see how it progresses. But
yeah, well, our province of Ontario here is locked down for a month again,
wow,
and it's starting to wear thin around here. I think that's why we had such a good response to the Baja Rally, is because people are so pent up. Let's start planning something. Let's start working on something. And I think that's where why we had such a good response, is because people are just they have cabin fever. The winter's now just over here, and people want to get out and do stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons, anyways.
Yeah. And that was a conversation that we talked about. There's based on other business stuff that my parents were doing, but there was a lot of people that would come down from Canada, and for many people, like, they don't typically spend the winter in Canada. They travel for it and get out of Canada.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, and so that's been very limited. Has
that's right.
The number has dwindled.
Oh yeah, I think the snowbirds. They call them snowbirds. I know lots of people went to Arizona or Florida for the winter. People have second homes and all sorts of stuff that they had to stay home. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. Fingers crossed for September.
There we go. Fingers crossed, and we get some rallies going, and more rally raiders, more people to go out and get lost. Yeah,
well, I think if people come back with a really nice experience and the word gets out, and then slowly you build up rally riders, and there are some younger guys that are interested, but it's a lot of people they don't understand it, and they're intimidated by the whole thing, and some of them are like that, that they're a little bit afraid to take the jump, and they don't want to be lost. People are afraid of being lost, which is the good thing about Baja Rally is you really, like I said, I don't know. You'd have to you really have to not know at all anything about, where you are at all. And, you can look at a map and kind of figure out, where you're going and stuff. And I've taken enough guys down there now to ride, and they're kind of familiar with it. But a lot of people are intimidated, which I understand. It's not for everybody to jump in both feet. Mm-hmm. First time I went to Mongolia, I went by myself. I didn't know anybody. Shipped a bike over to Japan, waited in the airport in Beijing, and I was supposed to meet a group of people that were going from Beijing to Mongolia, and I waited for a couple hours. I was starting to get worried because I didn't even know where the hotel was. And finally, someone tapped me on the shoulder. "Hey, Lawrence, come with us." And I just got swept away with the whole crowd, and it was great fun. Very few people spoke English, one or two people, and sorted out the riders meeting. It was like, oh man, what are they saying here? But I like that stuff. I like to try and figure that out. So it was kind of cool.
Nice. Well, cool. Well, so it sounds like we're going to see you. Hopefully, with everything go, we'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah,
down in
September. Bell's on, and we'll bring a bunch of guys down there having fun, and lots of hopefully hangers on. I'm trying to get people to come and work on bikes for people, and get that experience and do that as well, and bring people down.
Yeah, absolutely.
I figured
experience.
To put that any rally on is a huge undertaking, and it's kind of a shame if they only do it for a few people. So, if the whole thing of having it more entries is the rally's going to be better because the cost of putting it on is going to be spread by over more people, and it's important because just to do the planning and stuff is a huge amount of work, right? So you got to be
logistics and everything.
Support, got to support the. You don't want it. Rallies are great. They need to be supported, and that's. I recognize. I haven't organized a rally raid like that, but I've organized enough events to know that even a small event is a huge undertaking.
Mm-hmm. But it's good. It always on paper looks like, oh yeah, this will be easy, and then it's not.
Oh yeah, wait till you start doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like here in Canada, I don't think you could do a rally raid unless you took it way in the middle of nowhere. You know, like, and it'd be so hard to get people to go that far out in the countryside, you know, and it's very, very difficult. Like, we're remote, right? You know, but Baja's remote, but you know, there's
whole nother level out there.
There are 37 million people, and I think 90% of them live within 150 kilometers of the U.S.-Canadian border. And it's the second largest country in the world. The whole rest of it is empty.
Yeah.
So there are roads out there, but you know, there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
And you know, you could do a rally of some sort, but it's not like Morocco or you know, Baja or Sonora or something like that, or even Mongolia. It's very, very difficult to support yourself out there and have medical support. Even helicopters have kind of finite distances they can fly and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So you know, it would be a pretty difficult undertaking. But yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I'm so kind of, you know, why me? But okay.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I appreciate you coming on. I mean, and the experience and hearing some of your adventures and stuff like that. I mean, it's the end goal is to get more people interested in rally, and you know, and I think that the more we talk, you know, we get these underlying themes, you know, when it comes time to rally raids and how to get into it and learning to navigate. So that's the end goal. But
well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No,
and
I appreciate it, Lawrence.
I'll spread it around when it's ready to be heard. And
yeah, I'll get it posted up. We'll see it on Facebook, and then I also, if I'm not mistaken, you have a book out, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. It's called To Dakar and Back. It's been out for a few years. It's on. You can get it digitally. You can listen to it on. You know. Narrated, and it's all on Amazon, so everybody can buy it. It's sold well over the years. You know, it's a cool story. I mean, Andrew Short told me that he read it, and it kind of motivated him to get involved, and he liked it. So yeah,
I'll get the link on there. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we want to, like I said, the end goal is we get more people interested in Rally Raid and grow the sport. So.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you.
That's the plan.
I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Thank you, Lawrence.
We'll see you in September.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
All righty, sir. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So that was Lawrence Hacking, Canadian writer extraordinaire. It's blown away by, you know, how much history as far as writing and that he's done, but it's really cool to see the underlying of, you know, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, if you're going to go out into these rally raids things, is just look at it as an adventure. And, you know, it's just go out and finish that and be out there and be exposed and have fun and let everything else kind of fall into place. So it's really, really cool to see that as an underlying theme, or as the theme that keeps coming up or reoccurring. And so we'll see how this progresses. You know, hopefully we get some open borders and the event for Baja Rally in September grows. Sonora Rally already coming up in May, so should be interesting. You know, we don't know what's going to happen, but looking forward to both events either way. That should be a lot of fun. So anyway, that is going to do it for this week. If you like the podcast, don't forget, like, subscribe, throw 5 stars at it. I don't know, something like that. But you can also find us on Facebook if you'd like to comment, or maybe there's questions that you may want to ask Lawrence. You'll see it posted on the Chasing Waypoints Facebook page. Or you can also follow us on Instagram, Chasing Waypoints _official. And then also check the links in the description for the podcast. I'll have the Lawrence's book tag there, so you guys can read and learn more about his adventures from Dakar and back. So anyway, hope everybody's having a great Sunday, great weekend so far. Nice weather out in San Diego. I hope there's nice weather wherever you're listening from. And we will see you guys next week.